and welcome back to my channel again. So for today's video I am going to do 5 things to avoid saying to somebody struggling with infertility. This is a topic that I don't want any of you to watch and think, oh, I've said that to my friend or my cousin or my sister or, you know, any of your relatives or friends. I don't want you to look at this and think, shit, I shouldn't have said that, because you're saying it with the best intentions, and I guarantee you all of my friends and family have said one of these to me at some point. But this is something we have to listen to all the time, and sometimes when you hear them and you've heard them a million times before, you do tend to kind of physically cringe at the sound of them. So I would just say these are 5 kind of cliche things that people say that I would avoid. And also, I've only been struggling with infertility for 2 years. To say only 2 years is difficult, but there are people that have been trying far longer than I have, and really I'm in the very early stages compared to a lot of people. So this is just somebody in my position 2 years down the line kind of saying the 5 things that I hear a lot that bug me. So take that as you will. I am also going to do this video for miscarriage some point next week, so keep your eyes peeled for that, and it will be 5 things to avoid saying to someone that has been through a miscarriage. So number 1 is, it will happen when it's meant to happen. Oh, I find that one difficult because as a married woman, and I don't believe you have to be married to try and conceive, but in my situation, as a married woman who has been wanting a baby now for 2 years, for someone to say to me it will happen when it's meant to happen, when is it meant to happen? Please tell me, because I feel pretty damn ready to have taken the decision that you want a baby, that you feel you can offer a baby a happy life, a home, you can afford to clothe them, you can afford to feed them. Like, who... I just don't get that phrase, like, what makes me not ready? I think it's meant to happen now because I am ready for a baby. So I just don't really get that one, and it's surprisingly probably the one of all of these that you hear the most. It will happen when it's meant to happen. It's meant to happen now, thank you. Again, I know, please take this all with a pinch of salt, because I know people are saying it because they don't know what else to say and they think it's what you want to hear, but that I find hard to understand, because I find zero comfort in somebody telling me it will happen when it's meant to happen, when people get pregnant all the time that don't even want children. Why is it meant to happen for them and it's not meant to happen for me? Number 2 is, just relax and it will happen. I get the sentiment behind this, because I think, you know, there is a lot to be said for feeling relaxed, feeling stress-free. You know, a calm body and a calm mind will help, but if you're struggling with infertility and there is a medical reason why you're struggling with infertility, just relaxing is not going to do anything. It might help. If you feel a bit more relaxed, it might help, but if you've got a medical reason why you're not getting pregnant, you know, just relaxing is not going to fix all of your problems. Also, if you are struggling to conceive, I cannot express how much that takes up all of your mind every single day. I can guarantee you there is not a second I am not thinking about it. It is on my mind all the time. Everything I do, everything I watch, everywhere I go, it's on my mind. There is always a reminder. It's life, isn't it? So it's everywhere. It's difficult to relax when you want something so bad and you can't have it. Someone saying just relax has the opposite effect on me. If someone tells me to relax, I'm like, I don't need to relax, rah, rah, and I get all tense and I feel defensive. And on the flip side, there definitely is some truth to this, I think, like, in the sense that it helps. So when I got pregnant the first time back in April, me and Andrew had just found out we were having our first fertility appointment at the clinic. And because we knew we had that fertility appointment, we kind of just stopped all that for a little while and just did our own thing. And it did happen. So in that sense, that maybe there is some truth in it. I think relaxing a bit probably does help, but it's not going to solve everyone's problems. And after my last miscarriage in August, I was really relaxed with it because I thought I might just have a miscarriage again, so I'm not going to put my all into this and do all the OPKs and everything to find out that there is a reason I'm miscarrying. We know there isn't now, luckily, but there could have been. So we were really relaxed with it. We're always trying, but we weren't trying. And you know, it hasn't happened again, and it's been 5 months now since my last miscarriage and no pregnancy. So I understand the sentiment behind this one, but just try and avoid it if you can. By all means say, you know, maybe not being so regimented with it might help, but please don't tell someone just stop stressing or just relax and it will happen, because it doesn't work like that. And for someone with a medical reason they aren't conceiving, it is the most frustrating thing to hear ever. So number 3 is one that won't be relevant to everybody, but it is relevant to me and any of the kind of younger people struggling with infertility. I'm 26, so I am not young, but I'm not 40. And it is when people say you're only young, you've got loads of time. I understand this, I do. And I know I'm only young, and I know I do have time. And so in that sense I understand it, but I just don't really get why people say it, because there's no comfort in it. Just because I decided younger than some people might that I want a baby doesn't make it any less painful when it's not happening. And actually I'm at the prime age where everyone around me is having babies. A lot of my friends have babies now. Everyone on my Facebook is pregnant. Like, it's at times like that where someone's saying you're only young, you've got loads of time. Really, that one really grates on me. So yeah, I think if possible, just avoid bringing age into it altogether. I kind of think it's irrelevant. Yes, if someone's young, they probably do have plenty of time to try and conceive, but it doesn't make things easier. It's a fact, but it doesn't provide any kind of comfort or relieve any pressure. The person struggling with infertility is fully aware, if they are kind of in their 20s, that yes, they have plenty of time, they are aware of that, they know that, but it doesn't make it any easier and they don't really need it pointing out. Number 4 is you could always try IVF, or you could always adopt. Oh, this one bugs me. Firstly, IVF doesn't work for everyone. IVF is not the answer to everyone's infertility problems. For a lot of people it is, but it only works in about 30% of cases. Can you imagine 10 women all getting IVF and only 3 of them work? Like, that is not great odds. So telling someone they could always try IVF is difficult. Not everyone's eligible for IVF on the NHS in the UK, so if you're not and you have to pay for it, that is a massive expense that a lot of people could never ever afford. I haven't been through IVF personally, maybe in the future I will need to, but I can only imagine, and from speaking to friends who have gone through it, the physical and mental torture that puts on your body is not to be taken lightly. I don't think people realise quite what you have to go through for IVF, the physical invasion of IVF. It's horrendous. I know a lot of people that have had it and they've found it quite traumatic. And I think just saying there's always IVF, like it's just that simple, like, oh, you're struggling to conceive, you can just have IVF, it really doesn't work like that. And even if it did, it doesn't mean it's going to work for them. It's different for every person, it's different for every couple, it's different for every case. So I don't think saying there's always IVF is necessarily the most tactful avenue to go down. In the same way, I think telling someone they could always adopt is quite offensive, to be honest, to all sorts of people. People adopt that can physically have children. They adopt because they want to adopt, they adopt because they think the process is beautiful, they adopt because they want to help children that don't have the family life they should be able to have. So I think you kind of making that secondary to having your own child is quite offensive. Also, not everybody that wants a biological child wants to adopt. The two don't go hand in hand. Adoption has its own struggles, biologically having children has its own struggles, and I think the two are completely different. I don't think just because you biologically want a child you would automatically be open for adoption, and vice versa. I think the two are completely separate. Yes, you get a similar outcome, but I think linking the two is completely naive, to be honest. Personally, if I can't biologically have a child, I would 100% adopt. I am totally open to that. My dad was adopted. I think adoption is incredible and I would 100% consider it. Maybe even if I do have a biological child, I would definitely still consider adoption. I think the whole process is just amazing, but just because I feel like that is a route I would consider doesn't mean that the next person thinks it's a route they would consider. It's a completely personal decision, and I think making it secondary to, oh well, you can't biologically have a child, you can just adopt, the two don't go hand in hand. Yeah, I think IVF, adoption, any kind of fertility treatment, any kind of alternative route to parenthood is something that shouldn't be taken lightly, and it shouldn't be seen as secondary to being unable to physically conceive yourself. Whatever alternative route you have to go down to get to having a child is incredibly difficult and brings up struggles that I don't think people that haven't considered that route could even begin to imagine. So I just think offering it as a secondary, well, you can't have children yourself, so why don't you just try this, or why don't you just try this? It's not just try this, because it is an incredibly painful and invasive experience, whatever route they choose to go down to become parents. Point number 5 to avoid saying is, I know exactly how you feel. Unless you have been in their exact situation, you don't know exactly how they feel, and I appreciate people saying that, are trying to make people feel like they understand, but the amount of people I've had say to me, I understand how you feel, I tried for 3 months for my baby. To me, I find that quite insulting, because to compare trying to conceive for 3 months to 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or however long someone's having to struggle and go through that pain to become a parent, you can't compare it. You can understand how it might feel, you can get a little bit of a taster of how that might feel. Having a couple of months disappointment of not conceiving is difficult. It's never nice not being pregnant if you are trying to conceive, but unless you have been through infertility, unless you have struggled to conceive for a considerable time, I don't think you do understand exactly how it feels, and I don't think you should try. I think you're better off saying something like, oh god, I can't imagine how that feels. I tried for so and so and I found that hard, so you must find it really difficult. In the same way, I've had people say to me, oh, like my friend struggled to conceive, so I know exactly how you feel, like I've already seen her going through it. No, you don't know. If you haven't felt it yourself, you don't know. And the best thing you can do is say, I don't understand exactly how you're feeling. I probably never will understand exactly how you're feeling. I want to understand. Please tell me how you feel, but I'm not going to pretend that I understand exactly how you feel, because I don't. I think that's the best way to handle it. So yeah, just try and avoid telling somebody you know exactly how they feel unless you genuinely do. There are people that I speak to from various forums and things that say it to me, and yes, they do know exactly how I feel, and it is massively comforting if someone does know exactly how you feel. But if someone says it to you that doesn't, it can be quite frustrating, because it almost belittles the feelings that you are experiencing going through infertility. If you haven't been through infertility, there's no words for how horrendous it is, for how like broken it makes you feel. There's just no words. Honestly, I've never felt a feeling like it. It is the most soul-crushing feeling. It makes you feel absolutely worthless. So unless you've been in that position, all I would say, and it's completely up to you, is to just avoid telling someone you know how they feel because you tried to conceive for so and so months, because it's not the same. And you know, even if you've been trying 4 years, your feelings aren't going to be the same as the next person's feelings. So I just think there are more tactful ways to express that. And finally, this is kind of a 0.6, which I shouldn't have because I'm doing 5, but it isn't necessarily a phrase people say. It is, if you are pregnant and you have a friend who is struggling with infertility, or this goes for miscarriage, this goes for any kind of trouble conceiving, if you are pregnant, please, I cannot express how important it is that you tell that person in private. If one of my friends found out they were pregnant, I would want them to text me and tell me. I would want to be happy for them, and I don't know if they told me then and there that I could control my emotions. I would be happy for them, yes, but it would also bring incredible sadness. So just please think before announcing your pregnancy. I think it's really important that the person gets that one-on-one time to deal with their emotions. Announcing a pregnancy in front of all your friends or announcing it publicly before giving that person struggling with infertility the chance to process it themselves and manage their emotions could be incredibly difficult. And either at home on their own via text message so they can deal with themselves, or at the very least face to face, just the two of you, please don't ever announce that publicly. Obviously that's your decision, but I know myself, if someone did that, I would massively struggle to contain my emotions, and I would want to be able to do that. I would want to be able to be happy and process it and then push it to one side and think, this is their time, I'm going to be happy for them. And I don't know that if someone told me that in public, in a group full of my friends, I would find that extremely difficult, and I don't know that I could not act, because I wouldn't be acting being happy, but I just don't know if I could contain my own emotions, because it's so much happiness for one person, and I would feel so happy for that person, but then it's intense sadness for yourself, because it's difficult when you want something so badly and people around you are having it and you are not. I think that's something I say quite a lot, but it's true. So yeah, in a very long and rambly way, that's all I was wanting to say really. I think if any kind of infertility, miscarriage, or any kind of struggle conceiving was spoken about more and education started at a younger age, it would be a lot less awkward to discuss, people would be more open with it. As it is now, it's still a taboo subject, and that really infuriates me. You're kind of taught in school, don't use contraception and you will get pregnant and it'll be the end of the world. And you know, for a lot of people, if you don't have sex with contraception, you will get pregnant. But there are equally a lot of people that won't, and that can be incredibly difficult. 1 in 7 couples, I think it is in the UK, struggles with infertility or struggles to conceive, and 10 to 20%, I think it is, of pregnancies end in miscarriage. So you are not taught that in school, and I think that's why it's awkward to talk about it. Anyway, that's a whole nother rant for a whole nother video. Keep your eyes peeled next week, and I will be uploading 5 things to avoid saying to someone that has gone through a miscarriage. But for now, I will leave it there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in my next video.